The emergency alarms pierced through the quiet halls of Medical Station Theta 7 like a scream in the night. Dr. Zeleth lifted his crystalline head from the medical reports he had been reviewing and felt his 3 hearts accelerate in unison. In his 300 years as a physician, that particular alarm meant only one thing. Someone was dying, and they were dying fast. He moved through the corridors with practiced speed, his 6 legs carrying him smoothly toward the trauma bay. Other medical staff scattered before him, their faces showing the same tense anticipation. Through the transparent walls, he could see the docking bay where a human vessel sat crooked and broken, trailing smoke and sparking electricity into the void of space. Humans. Zeleth had only treated 2 in his entire career, both for minor ailments. The species was relatively new to the galactic community, and medical data on them was frustratingly sparse. Most of what existed in the database was flagged as unverified or implausible, which Zeleth had always found curious but never investigated. He was about to get a very thorough education. The trauma bay doors slid open and Nurse Kalara met him immediately. Her usually calm Solani features were twisted with distress, her translucent skin flickering with colors that indicated deep concern. She thrust a medical tablet toward him before he could even ask for it. "Doctor, the readings cannot be correct," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I have run the scan 3 times. The human has massive internal bleeding across 4 separate organ systems. One of his breathing chambers has completely collapsed. Radiation exposure is at levels that would kill a Karathi instantly. His skeletal structure is fractured in 17 distinct locations. There are burns covering 30% of his exterior surface." Zeleth took the tablet and studied it carefully. His mandibles clicked together in the way they always did when he was processing difficult information. The readings were indeed catastrophic. He had seen injuries like this before, but never on a living patient. Usually these scans came from autopsies. "Survival probability?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. 0.001%, Kalara replied. "Standard protocol indicates we should prepare death rites and comfort measures only." Zeleth nodded slowly. It was the humane thing to do. When death was certain, galactic medicine focused on dignity and peace. He had performed this sad duty hundreds of times before. He steeled himself and entered the main treatment room. 2 humans stood beside a makeshift stretcher they had clearly constructed from cargo panels and safety netting. They were supporting a 3rd human between them, and the sight made Zeleth stop in his tracks. The injured human was a disaster of broken biology. His body bent at angles that should not exist. Blood soaked through hasty bandages made from torn clothing. One side of his face was swollen beyond recognition, the eye completely shut. His breathing came in shallow, rattling gasps that spoke of fluid in the lungs. Several bones visibly jutted against his skin, trying to break through. But his other eye was open. Clear. Focused. The human was conscious. "Set him down gently on the medical platform," Zeleth instructed, his voice automatically falling into the calm, professional tone he used with the dying. "Please be careful with his head and spine." The 2 humans carefully transferred their companion onto the hovering medical bed. Zeleth approached slowly, activating his personal scanner. The device hummed to life, bathing the broken body in soft blue light. The readings it returned made even less sense than the preliminary scans. "Human, can you hear me?" Zeleth asked softly, leaning closer. "I am Dr. Zeleth, chief physician of this station. You have sustained catastrophic injuries. I want you to know that we will make you comfortable. There will be no pain. You will be honored and—" "Not that bad," the human interrupted, his voice rough as grinding metal but surprisingly strong. "Just need to catch my breath for a minute. Then I can get back to the ship. Engine needs fixing." Zeleth's scanner slipped from his manipulator appendage and clattered onto the floor. The human tried to lift his head, failed, then tried again with his mangled arm to wave dismissively. "Really, Doc? I have walked off worse. Remember that time on Kepler Station, James? When the cargo loader fell on me?" One of the other humans, apparently named James, made a strange barking sound that Zeleth would later learn was laughter. "Tom, you were in medical for 2 weeks. But I walked out," the injured human named Tom insisted. "This is nothing. Nothing." The creature with 17 broken bones and organs failing throughout his body called this nothing. Zeleth stood frozen, every assumption he had ever made about biology and medicine crashing down around him. This was impossible. Every model, every principle, every law of physics and chemistry that govern living tissue said this human should be unconscious at best, dead at worst. Yet here he was arguing about going back to work. "Kalara," Zeleth heard himself say, his voice distant and strange even to his own hearing. Cancel the death rights. Prep for emergency intervention. Full trauma protocols. Contact the Galactic Medical Database and pull every file on human biology, no matter how implausible the flags say it is. Quillara's colors flashed with surprise, but she moved immediately, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Zelith looked down at Tom, this impossible creature who refused to acknowledge his own mortality. Human, I'm going to try to save your life. But I need you to understand that I have no idea how your biology works. You should not be alive right now. Tom's visible eye crinkled at the corner in what might have been a smile. Yeah, I get that a lot. Just do your best, Doc. I am tougher than I look. As his medical team swarmed around the patient, beginning procedures they all believed were futile, Zelith felt something he had not experienced in centuries of practice. Genuine uncertainty mixed with desperate hope. He had no idea if Tom would survive the next hour. But for the first time in 300 years he was no longer certain about death either. 72 hours had passed since Tom Webb had arrived at Medical Station Theta, 7 more dead than alive. Dr. Zelith stood in his private office, staring at the medical scans displayed across 3 separate holographic screens, and felt something close to madness creeping into his thoughts. The human should be dead. Every principle of medicine that Zelith had learned over 3 centuries insisted upon it. Yet the scans told a different story, one that made no sense whatsoever. He heard the door open behind him but did not turn around. Killara entered quietly, carrying another stack of data tablets. She had barely slept in 3 days, running test after test on their impossible patient. The latest results are in, she said softly, setting the tablets on his desk. Doctor, his internal bleeding has completely stopped. The wounds are clotting at a rate 53 times faster than any species on record. His collapsed lung has reinflated to 60% capacity, and the remaining lung has somehow expanded to compensate for the loss. The broken bones are already forming new growth bridges. In some places they are fusing back together. Zelith finally turned to face her. That is not possible. Bones do not heal in 72 hours. They take months, sometimes years depending on the species. I know, Killara said, her colors flickering with confusion. But the scans do not lie. His body is repairing itself at a speed that should require technology we do not possess. Except he is doing it naturally. His own cells are doing this. A chime sounded at the door. Before either of them could respond, it opened to reveal Tom Webb himself, sitting upright in a hovering medical chair. He looked terrible, his face still swollen and discolored, bandages covering most of his torso, but his eyes were bright and alert. Hey Doc, Tom said cheerfully. Any chance I could get some better food? That nutrient paste tastes like engine grease mixed with sadness. Zelith simply stared. 3 days ago this human had been dying. Now he was complaining about the food. You should not be conscious, Zelith said finally. You should not be speaking. By all rights, you should not exist in your current state. Tom shrugged with his one working shoulder, then winced. Yeah, I feel like I got hit by a cargo hauler, but sitting in bed makes it worse. Gotta keep the blood moving, you know? Before Zelith could respond, the door opened again. Another human entered, this one a female carrying a worn medical bag over her shoulder. She looked at Tom and smiled in a way that suggested both affection and exasperation. You look absolutely awful, Tom, she said. You should see the engine room, Tom replied with a lopsided grin. The woman turned to Zelith and extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. I am Emma Clark, medical officer of the Wandering Star. I brought Tom's medical history and some supplies. Figured you might need help understanding what you are dealing with. Zelith gestured toward his desk, and Emma placed a data pad down, activating it with a touch. A file appeared, dense with medical records. Tom here broke his back when he was 23, Emma began casually as if discussing the weather. Fell 3 stories during a station construction job. Doctors said he would never walk again. He was back on his feet in 8 months. Zelith's mandibles clicked rapidly. 8 months? For spinal reconstruction? That should take years of surgery and therapy. At 30 he got third-degree burns across his chest and arms during a fire on a mining colony. Healed in 6 weeks with minimal scarring. At 37 he survived explosive decompression when an airlock failed. This is actually his 3rd radiation exposure. 3rd. Zelith felt his voice rising to an undignified pitch. How is he not dead from cellular degradation? Emma pulled out several items from her bag, placing them on the desk one by one. This is why I am here. You have been treating Tom like he is made of glass, using your standard gentle medicine. But humans need a different approach. Do you have basic antibiotics? Saline solution for hydration? Surgical thread? Pain medication that actually works on our chemistry? Zelith stared at the items. They were ancient by galactic standards, tools that most species had abandoned centuries ago in favor of cellular regeneration technology and energy-based healing. Why would you need such primitive supplies? He asked. Because our biology is primitive, Emma explained, pulling up an image of Earth on the data pad. This is our homeworld. Class 12 Death World classification. Look at the environmental data. Zelith studied the information and felt his 3 hearts skip in unison. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere would be toxic to most species. The temperature swings were extreme. The planet was covered with predators, poisonous plants, deadly diseases, and natural disasters that occurred with frightening regularity. You evolved in this? Zelith whispered. We had no choice, Emma said simply. Adapt or die. So our bodies became redundant. We have 2 kidneys when we only need 1. 2 lungs. Our liver can regenerate itself if damaged. Our bones are dense and self-repairing. Our blood clots fast to prevent death from bleeding. We produce chemicals like adrenaline that let us ignore pain and perform incredible feats when we are in danger. Our immune systems are aggressive and adaptable. We can survive without food for 30 to 40 days, without water for 3 to 4 days. We heal fast because on Earth if you did not heal fast you died. Kalara had gone completely pale, her colors muted to almost nothing. Your entire species is built for surviving the unsurvivable. Pretty much, Tom agreed from his chair. Back home, people survive car crashes that crumple metal around them. They fall from buildings and walk away. They get stabbed, shot, burned, frozen and keep going. My grandfather once got his arm caught in farm machinery, tore it up pretty bad and still drove himself to the hospital. Humans are stubborn like that. Zelith slowly lowered himself into his chair, his legs suddenly feeling weak. He pulled up the galactic database entry on humans, reading the flags he had previously ignored. Unverified claims, implausible biology requires further study. You are not just another species, he said quietly. You are the result of a planet that spent millions of years trying to kill you, and you simply refuse to die. Emma smiled. Now you are starting to understand. So, can we get Tom some proper treatment? Human-style medicine. It is going to look rough to you, but trust me, we know what we are doing. As Emma began listing medical procedures that made Kalara gasp in horror, Zelith realized something profound. The galaxy had been practicing gentle medicine for so long that they had forgotten what it meant to truly fight for survival. Humans had never forgotten. They could not afford to. And now they were about to teach the galaxy what real survival looked like. By day 5, Tom Webb was walking. Not well, not smoothly, but walking nonetheless. He shuffled down the corridor of the recovery ward with a makeshift cane that Emma had fabricated from spare parts, his movements slow and deliberate but undeniably forward progress. The other patients in the ward reacted as if death itself was taking a stroll. A Karathi merchant pressed himself flat against the wall, his scales turning pale with fear. 2 Solani visitors literally fled around the corner, their translucent bodies flickering with alarm colors. Even the medical staff kept their distance, watching Tom with a mixture of awe and terror. Tom noticed and sighed. He lowered himself carefully onto a bench near the observation window, every movement clearly causing him pain despite his efforts to hide it. Dr. Zelith approached from his office, medical scanner in hand, having watched the entire spectacle. They think I am a monster, Tom observed quietly, staring out at the stars beyond the station. They think you are unkillable, Zelith corrected, sitting beside him on the bench. His crystalline body reflected the starlight in fractal patterns. 5 days ago you were dying. Today you are walking. To them, to me, to anyone who understands biology, this is impossible. Tom shifted slightly, wincing. I feel like I got hit by a cargo hauler, rolled over twice, then backed over for good measure. Everything hurts. I am not some invincible creature. I just heal fast. Zelith activated his scanner, running it over Tom's body. The reading still amazed him. Your lung has fully reinflated. Your internal organs show minimal scarring. Your bones are 70% healed. The radiation damage is repairing itself at the cellular level. Tom, other species would need months in medical suspension to achieve what your body is doing in days. Yeah, well, sitting around makes it worse, Tom said, adjusting his grip on the cane. Movement helps. Keeps the blood flowing, keeps the muscles from wasting away. On Earth, we learned a long time ago that bed rest is sometimes worse than the injury itself. A commotion erupted from the main entrance of the ward. Voices raised in alarm, equipment clattering. Kalara appeared in the doorway, her colors flashing urgent red and orange. Dr. Zelith, the station director, is here. He demands to speak with you immediately about the human. Zelith rose slowly, his mandibles clicking with irritation. What does Director Vorn want now? He has concerns, Kalara said carefully, her eyes flicking toward Tom. Security concerns. Tom raised an eyebrow. Security concerns? About me? About all humans, Kalara admitted softly. There is talk among the station leadership. Questions about whether your species might be some kind of biological weapon. Whether your resilience is natural or engineered. Whether humanity poses a threat to other species. Tom actually laughed, then grabbed his ribs in pain. Oh, okay, laughing is still a bad idea. But seriously? We are not weapons. We are just stubborn. Earth made us that way. Zelith studied his patient carefully. Help me understand, Tom. On your world, are you considered particularly resilient? Are you a soldier or an athlete? Someone with special training? Me? No way, Tom said, shaking his head. I am just an engineer. Pretty average by human standards, honestly. My job is fixing broken equipment, not getting into fights. You want to see resilient humans, you should meet our emergency responders. Or our soldiers. Or construction workers. Or honestly, just about any human parent trying to keep their kids alive. Your parents are particularly durable? Kalara asked, curious despite her nervousness. Tom smiled, a genuine warmth entering his expression. My mother once drove herself to the hospital while in labor with my sister because my father was off-world. She had the baby 20 minutes after arriving. My grandfather fell off a roof when he was 60, broke both legs and 3 ribs, and was walking with a cane 6 weeks later. My aunt survived a shuttle crash that killed everyone else on board. Walked away with a concussion and some bruises. That is just normal life for humans. Zelith felt something cold settle in his chest. You are saying that entire families, entire populations of humans, possess this level of resilience? Pretty much, Tom confirmed. I mean, some people are tougher than others. Some heal faster. But yeah, most humans can take a beating and keep going. We have to. Our world does not give us much choice. The door to the ward opened, and Director Vorn entered flanked by 2 security officers. He was a tall Vrwinin like Zelith, but his crystalline structure was darker, more imposing. His mandibles were set in a hard line. Dr. Zelith, I need answers, Vorn said without preamble. This human should be dead. The fact that he is not raises serious questions about what humanity truly is. Are they engineered? Enhanced? Are we harboring something dangerous on this station? Tom slowly pushed himself to his feet using the cane, standing despite the obvious pain. Director Vorn, right? I heard about you. Tom Webb, chief engineer, completely unmodified human. What you see is what 4 billion years of evolution on a planet that really wanted to kill us looks like. 4 billion years? Vorn's voice was skeptical. Give or take, Tom said with a shrug. Look, I get it. We are weird. We survive things that should kill us. But we are not weapons or threats. We are just products of our environment. Earth threw everything at us. Ice ages, asteroids, supervolcanoes, plagues, predators with teeth as long as your arm, poisonous everything, and somehow we kept surviving. Our bodies adapted. They had to. Emma Clark entered the ward, carrying her medical bag. She assessed the situation immediately and moved to stand beside Tom. Is there a problem here? The director has concerns about whether humans are dangerous, Zelith explained. Emma looked at Tom, bruised and battered, leaning heavily on a makeshift cane. Then she looked back at the director and the armed security officers. Do we look dangerous to you? You look fragile, Vorn admitted. But you refuse to break. That is what concerns me. What else are humans capable of? Tom and Emma exchanged glances. Finally Tom spoke. Honestly, we are capable of a lot. We can be tough when we need to be. We can endure incredible hardship. But mostly we just want to live our lives, fix our ships, and go home to our families. We did not choose to be this way. We just are. Zelith stepped forward, placing himself between the director and the humans. Vorn, I have been studying Tom for 5 days. I have read everything I can find about human biology and history. They are not a threat. They are a marvel. And perhaps we could learn something from them instead of fearing them. The tension in the room hung heavy for a long moment. Finally, Vorn's mandibles relaxed slightly. Very well, Doctor. But I want a full report. Everything you learn about these humans. If they are going to be traveling through our space, we need to understand them. As the director and his security team left, Tom lowered himself back onto the bench with a relieved sigh. That could have gone worse. Zelith sat beside him again, watching the stars. They fear what they do not understand. But I think understanding might be exactly what we need. The holographic conference chamber hummed with energy as representatives from across the Galactic Medical Council materialized one by one. Dr. Zelith stood at the center of the circular room, surrounded by floating displays of medical data, anatomical scans, and historical records. His 3 hearts beat faster than usual. What he was about to present would challenge thousands of years of established medical doctrine. Counselor Vareth appeared last, his aged Karathi features stern and skeptical. He had been practicing medicine longer than most species had achieved space flight, and he did not appreciate having his understanding of biology questioned. "This had better be important, Zelith," Vareth said, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "You called an emergency session. We do not do that lightly." "I understand, Counselor," Zelith replied, activating the first display. An image of Earth appeared, rotating slowly, its blue and green surface deceptively beautiful. "I want to present my findings on human biology and what it means for the future of galactic medicine." He expanded the planetary data. Red warnings flashed across the screen. Humans evolved on a Class 12 death world. For those unfamiliar with the classification, that means Earth is among the most hostile planets known to support intelligent life. The gravity is 30% higher than the galactic average. The atmosphere contains oxygen at concentrations that would be toxic to 60% of known species. The temperature swings from freezing to boiling across its surface. It experiences regular natural catastrophes including earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, and floods. A Solani representative flickered with nervous colors. "How did life even develop there?" "It did not just develop," Zelith said, pulling up evolutionary charts. "It thrived through constant adaptation. And humans are the apex result of that evolutionary pressure. They are biological marvels built from millions of years of surviving the unsurvivable." He displayed Tom's initial trauma scans beside his current condition. The gasps that echoed through the chamber were immediate and shocked. "This is the same individual, separated by only 8 days," Zelith continued. "Injuries that should have been fatal were survived through natural biological processes. No advanced technology. No genetic modification. Just human physiology operating as designed." Counselor Vareth leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Impossible. I have reviewed your data, Zelith, and I believe there has been some error in measurement or interpretation. No natural biology can heal at those rates." "That is what I thought as well," Zelith admitted. "So I investigated further." He pulled up medical records from across human history, data that Emma had provided. Humans have 2 kidneys when they only need 1 to survive. 2 lungs. A liver that can regenerate up to 75% of its mass and still function. Their bones are dense and self-repairing. Their blood contains multiple redundant clotting factors. Their immune system is so aggressive it sometimes attacks their own body by mistake, yet they survive that too. More data flooded the displays. They can survive without food for 30 to 40 days. Without water for 3 days. They produce a chemical called adrenaline that temporarily increases their strength, speed, and pain tolerance during danger. Their bodies can enter a state called shock that redirects blood flow to vital organs, sacrificing extremities to preserve life. They have a reflex that slows their heart rate in water to conserve oxygen. Another reflex that forces them to pull away from heat before conscious thought occurs. A young Phelan doctor spoke up, her crystalline voice uncertain. "This sounds less like evolution and more like engineering." "It is engineering," Zelith agreed. "But the engineer was Earth itself, and the design process took 4 billion years. Every system has backups. Every organ has redundancies. Every cell is programmed for aggressive survival. Humans are not just tough. They are over-engineered for worst-case scenarios." He pulled up historical records that made several council members visibly uncomfortable. They survived ice ages that covered their planet in frozen waste. They survived plagues that killed half their population. They survived predators with claws and teeth designed to tear through flesh. They survived starvation, drought, war, and countless disasters. And every time, the survivors passed on genes that made the next generation even harder to kill. Counselor Vareth stood, his voice sharp. "This is a biological paradox, Zelith. They look fragile. Their skin tears easily. Their bones break. They bleed from minor cuts. How can something so apparently delicate be so durable?" The chamber doors opened before Zelith could answer. Tom Webb entered, now walking without a cane, just 8 days after arriving at death's door. His movements were still careful, still pained, but he was mobile and alert. Behind him, Emma pushed a hovering medical stretcher. "Counselor Vareth," Zelith said quietly. "Allow me to introduce Thomas Webb, the human whose case I have been presenting. Tom, would you mind telling the council how you feel?" Tom looked around at the assembled representatives, noting their shocked expressions. "Honestly, I feel like I got run over by heavy machinery. Everything aches. I'm tired all the time. But I am functional. I can work. I can walk. Give me another week and I will be back to normal. That is just how humans are built." "Just how you are built," Vareth repeated slowly, his skepticism wavering. "That is not why I called you here though," Zelith said, his voice turning grave. He gestured to the stretcher Emma had brought. A small Phelan child lay there, her crystalline skin cracked and dulling, her vital signs dropping steadily on the monitor. "This is Lyra," Zelith continued. "She was injured in a docking accident 2 hours ago. Her injuries are remarkably similar to what Tom survived. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, organ damage. We have applied standard Phelan medical protocols. Gentle healing. Minimal intervention. Comfort measures." The monitor beeped urgently. The child's vital signs dropped further. "She is dying," Zelith said flatly. "She has perhaps 10 minutes left. Standard protocols have failed." Kalara appeared beside him, her colors flashing with distress. "Doctor, her parents have given permission to try anything. They know we have exhausted all options." Zelith looked around the chamber at the assembled medical experts. "I am requesting permission from this council to attempt human medical protocols on this child. Aggressive intervention. High-risk procedures. Methods that our medicine considers barbaric and dangerous." The chamber erupted in protests and shocked objections. Vareth raised his hand for silence. "You want to use their brutal methods on a Phelan child?" Vareth asked. "Their biology is nothing like ours. She could die even faster." "She will die regardless," Zelith said. "But humans have proven that sometimes the aggressive approach works. Sometimes fighting death with everything you have is better than accepting it gracefully." Tom stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "On Earth we have a saying in medicine. First do no harm. But we also believe in fighting like hell for every life. My people did not survive our planet by giving up when things looked hopeless. We survived by refusing to accept death as inevitable." Emma moved to the stretcher, already preparing equipment. "We can try. No guarantees. But humans do not give up easily, and maybe that attitude is what this child needs." The chamber fell silent except for the urgent beeping of the monitor. The child's vital signs continued their steady decline. Counselor Vareth looked at the dying child, then at Tom standing strong despite injuries that should have killed him, then back to Zelith. "This will be on your record, Zelith," Vareth said finally. "If she dies you will answer for it. But proceed. Show us what human medicine can do." Zelith nodded, turning to Emma. "Teach us how to fight." Emma's expression became focused and determined. "Then let us begin. And I warn you, it is not going to be pretty." The medical bay transformed into controlled chaos within seconds. Emma Clark moved with precise authority, her voice cutting through the uncertain murmurs of the alien medical staff like a blade through silk. "Listen carefully because we do not have time to repeat instructions," Emma said, her hands already working over the dying Phelan child. "Everything you know about gentle medicine, put it aside for the next few hours. We are going to force this child's body to fight whether it wants to or not." Kalara hesitated at the equipment console, her colors flickering with uncertainty. "But the standard protocols say we should reduce stress on the system, allow natural decline, provide comfort." "Your standard protocols are killing her," Emma said bluntly, checking the monitor. The child's heartbeat was growing weaker, more irregular. "Tom, I need you on the scanner. Call out anything that changes." Tom moved to the scanning station, his own injuries forgotten in the moment. "Got it." Heart rate dropping, 60 beats per minute and falling. Emma's hands moved rapidly across the medical interface, adjusting settings that made several of the watching council members gasp in horror. "We are increasing blood pressure, not lowering it. I know it seems wrong, but we need to force circulation. The body needs to work, needs to pump harder. Kalara, prepare the mechanical breathing support." "At what setting?" Kalara asked, pulling up the equipment controls. "Double your standard rate," Emma instructed. "Maybe triple. We need to flood her system with oxygen." "That could damage delicate tissues," a Phelan doctor protested from the observation area. "Damaged tissues can heal," Emma shot back without looking up. "Dead ones cannot. Now either help or stay quiet." Dr. Zeleth stepped forward, positioning himself beside Emma. Tell me what to do. I am ready to learn. Emma glanced at him, a flicker of respect crossing her face. Good. I need you to prepare intravenous lines. We are going to push fluids and medications at rates that will seem toxic to you. Trust me anyway. The child's body jerked as the mechanical breathing support engaged, forcing air into her lungs at an aggressive rate. Her crystalline skin flickered weakly, cracks spreading across her small form like spider webs. Heart rate critical, Tom called out. 40 beats per minute. Blood pressure dropping. Start the infusion, Emma ordered. Maximum rate. Zeleth hesitated for only a fraction of a second before following her instructions. Fluid and medication flooded into the child's system at concentrations that made his medical training scream in protest. This was too much, too fast, too aggressive. But the monitor stabilized. Just barely, but it stabilized. Talk to me, Tom, Emma said, her eyes fixed on the child. Heart rate holding at 42, Tom reported. Blood pressure rising slightly. Internal bleeding shows signs of slowing. Emma nodded, her jaw set with determination. Now comes the hard part. We need to put her in a medical coma. Shut down all non-essential functions so her body can focus entirely on repair. Counselor Vareth leaned forward in the observation area, his voice sharp with concern. A coma? That is extremely dangerous for Phelan physiology. Their consciousness is tied to their crystalline structure. Forcing shutdown could result in permanent damage. Or it could save her life, Emma countered. Right now, her body is trying to maintain consciousness, regulate temperature, process sensory input, and heal catastrophic damage all at once. We need to eliminate everything except healing. Zeleth, prepare the sedation protocol. The next 3 hours passed intense, exhausting work. Emma guided the alien medical team through procedures that made them flinch and protest, but she never wavered. When the child's heart stopped twice, Emma shocked it back into rhythm with electrical pulses that seemed barbarically crude compared to galactic medical technology. When bleeding resumed in one organ cluster, she directed Zeleth through a surgical intervention that was more about speed than elegance. Tom remained at the scanner station the entire time despite his obvious exhaustion, calling out readings and changes with unwavering focus. Several times, Kalara tried to convince him to rest, but he simply shook his head and continued working. Humans do not quit in the middle of a fight, he said simply. Slowly, impossibly, the child's vital signs began to improve. The internal bleeding stopped. The broken crystalline structures began showing microscopic signs of repair. Her heart rate steadied at 55 beats per minute, then 60, then 65. As the 4th hour approached, Emma finally stepped back from the medical platform, wiping sweat from her forehead. She is stable. Still critical but stable. The coma will keep her under for at least 48 hours while her body repairs itself. After that, we will see. The observation area was completely silent. Counselor Vareth stared at the monitors, his expression unreadable. Zeleth looked at the child, then at Emma, then at his own manipulator appendages as if seeing them for the first time. You just rewrote 3,000 years of medical doctrine in one night. I just applied what humans learned from surviving Earth, Emma said quietly. Sometimes gentle is right. Sometimes you need to fight with everything you have. The trick is knowing which approach the patient needs. 2 months later, the wandering star prepared to depart from Medical Station Theta 7. Tom stood in the docking bay, fully healed, arguing with Emma about optimal engine efficiency ratios as if he had never been injured at all. Dr. Zeleth approached with a data tablet in his manipulator appendage. My paper on human adaptive biology is being distributed across the galactic medical networks. You have changed how we think about survival medicine. The Council has even approved an exchange program with Earth medical schools. Tom extended his hand, and Zeleth grasped it in the human gesture he had learned. Happy to help, Doc. Though honestly, I was just trying not to die. Did not mean to start a medical revolution. That seems to be humanity's specialty, Zeleth observed. Accidentally changing everything simply by refusing to quit. Emma smiled, shouldering her medical bag. We are stubborn like that. How is Lyra doing? She woke up 3 weeks ago, Zeleth said, his mandibles clicking with pleasure. Full recovery expected within 6 months. Her parents ask about you constantly. They call you the miracle worker. Not a miracle, Emma said. Just a different perspective. Your medicine was designed by species that evolved on gentle worlds. Ours was designed for a planet that tried to kill us daily. Both approaches have value. As the humans boarded their ship, Kalara joined Zelith at the observation window. Together they watched the wandering star undock and orient toward the hyperspace lanes. What did we learn from them? Kalara asked softly. Zelith considered the question for a long moment, watching the ship's engines flare to life. That survival is not about having perfect biology or advanced technology. It is about refusing to accept defeat. Humans are not unkillable. They just engineered themselves, through countless generations of suffering and adaptation, to be too stubborn to die easily. And perhaps that stubborn refusal to quit is the most powerful survival trait of all. The wandering star jumped to hyperspace, carrying its crew of impossible survivors back into the vast galaxy. In the recovery ward, young Lyra opened her crystalline eyes and smiled at her parents. She would carry scars from her injuries, small imperfections in her otherwise flawless surface. But she was alive. She had fought and she had won. Somewhere on distant Earth, billions of humans went about their daily lives, completely unaware that one stubborn engineer had just taught the galaxy a lesson about survival that would echo through medical halls for generations to come. They were not conquerors. They were not warriors or geniuses or technological marvels. They were simply products of a world that had spent 4 billion years trying to kill them, and they had responded by becoming too stubborn to die. And sometimes, the galaxy was learning, stubbornness was the greatest power of all.